Of course, yesterday, Christian Parker gets introduced as the new defensive coordinator, and Brian Schottenheimer explained why he was the guy.
The way he carries himself, he's wise beyond his years. I mean this, he's convicted. You know, I did tell him that I was a coordinator at 32 years old. He's 34, so he's been slacking. I'm a little disappointed that, you know, I had to beat him by 2 years. But, you know, I say that in jest because, like, he's been preparing for this for the last 4 or 5 years. When you're designing defense, you're the pass game coordinator on defense. You're basically involved in calling third downs and giving those things. And I say it because it's real. He was the last Zoom that we did, and as he started talking, it wasn't just him talking about his watches and his shoe game. He got a serious shoe game. Yeah, he got a shoe room. You guys can write about that. He's got a shoe room. Man, every time we talk, we just would get off a call or get off the Zoom and get off the interview, just be like, damn, I want more of that. And I think his ability to develop players is very obvious. You look at what he did in Denver, involved with Surtain, and you look at what they did in Philadelphia, obviously with Cooper DeJean and Mitchell and guys like that. He's done it. And ton of respect for Vic Fangio. He's cut his, teeth under Vic, but he's not Vic. He's got his own convictions and beliefs, and that's what I love about the guy.
Schottenheimer also talked about the building and how impressed he was by the players' embrace of him. And the first time he said it, I was like, man, these guys, I don't really know who Christian Parker is, right? No one knew who he was before the name just came up in the interview process. And then he went back to it, and he's like, no, pretty rare. Guys coming back to the facility and the energy up in the building for CP, as they're calling it.
It may just be also, any port in a storm. It's like, God, it's not Eberflus.
Yeah.
Could be.
Thank God. It's like the one woman left at 1:55 in the bar.
2 a.m. Look, is that Joe Namath says 2 a.m. Miss America ain't walking in?
Now, one person who would know him is Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark would know him because they were in Green Bay together. And so if Kenny and Kenny being, one of the leaders, whatever, if Kenny's kind of communicated some of that. And I think it makes sense when you hear who were the guys who showed up. Like, Schotty said DeMarvin and Overshown showed up. Overshown 100% strikes me as somebody who would have been doing research the last few weeks on what does Christian Parker believe and would have gotten excited about being able to go in there and talk to him. So that makes sense to me.
And I always wonder, like, football players, because football players are so singularly focused on the day. And they're busy. Like, there's meetings, practices, lifting, treatment. Whereas other sports, you might have more downtime, or you may know more assistants around the league that you may not. I always wonder that about football players.
I think there's only one way to answer this next question. I'm curious of the last guy who's like, no, it's the other answer. Is Christian Parker a scheme around the players or players around the scheme guy?
I think you build it around the players. Of course, you want to have your core principles and foundational beliefs, but as you kind of move forward in the process, what do your guys do well? How can you put good players in highlighted positions? How can you create one-on-ones for certain guys? How you can protect certain guys? If we can win on blitzes on a running back, then we're going to blitz a lot. If we got good man-to-man corners, we're going to play man. If we have guys that are better with zone vision, we're going to play more zone. So, you want to build a package that has diversity and scheme, and then you want to, tailor it to the players that you have. And, of course, there are schematic fits. But I think the really good players are the ones that you can't peg them in a certain scheme, and that's the only way they can play football. You want to have guys that no matter what scheme they're in, they can be significant contributors, and then you want to just highlight it around their strengths.
Feels like you have to answer it, build it around the players.
You do.
But I wonder, who are the coaches who still or have even said, no, it's going to be the scheme?
The guy you had last year.
Yeah, right, the guy last year. Because, there is an element of the scheme. There is an element, you can't just abandon your scheme completely. You're not going to do that. I remember when Parcells he changed it to a 3-4. They still had Zimmer here, and Zim was a 4-3 coach, but he coached the 3-4 defense that year. And I was like, all right, I'm sure he could do it, but it's completely foreign to him.
Yeah. That's how he won Parcells over, though. Yeah. Was he showed Parcells that he was adaptable and he could do whatever. I like when you hear that it sounds simple, but him basically talking about you frequently hear people discuss in the NFL, these positionless players are like, what do they, they don't really have a fit anywhere. I like him saying the players that you sit there and think, what do they even really fit into, to him are exciting because they're versatile and he can kind of apply them in a few different ways. That was what Dan Quinn really leaned into when he got here. And so if you're going to return to some of that, I think that's the best thing that you can take from Dan Quinn.
What about the staff? How is Christian Parker going to go ahead and fill that out? And what was he looking for when making his hires?
No, I think that we, extensive search, very thorough, trying to just balance it. I think, compatibility is very important. And obviously the teaching element is significant, right? But you want to have the right collection of people by position, whether it's, what schemes they've been in previously, what they've done, their area of focus and expertise when it comes to game planning and all that kind of stuff with player development. And, we definitely feel like we have the right mix.
So, a lot of youth, right? And then there was a follow-up to Brian Schottenheimer, because Jerry's normally experienced. And I've understood this. Hey, what's wrong with getting a former head coach as your DC? These are, John Fox and the rest of these guys, a lot of winning success. Eberflus, former head coach, and now we're kind of going opposite here, which a lot of people are taking as a refreshing change. And Schotty was asked if you can be too young with the staff.
No, I don't think so at all. I think, you're talking, 6 of the 9 guys we hired on defense have NFL experience. I think I go back to 2 things, energy and connection. I can see the excitement of our players. Marquise Bell was in today. DeMarvion Overshown came in yesterday. Like, the guys are excited. They're excited about Christian and the staff that we've put together. I think, again, we left no stone unturned in the search. A couple guys from college, a couple guys that have been coordinators before at different levels of football. And at the end of the day, man, if you can teach and motivate these guys and get them to know you care about them, these guys have shown they will run through a brick wall for you. And I think that's what we're going to get.
So there he is talking about the youthful staff, and of course, no Jerry and Steven up there as
made me happy. Made me happy to not see Jerry and Steven up there.
Jerry did participate in all 40 Zoom interviews, though.
It's great. As he should. You're the owner and the general manager. You should participate in everything.
Absolutely.
No problem with that. But I didn't need to see.
But he kind of laughed when he goes, it sounded like Jerry and Steven were a little bit put out, like, towards the end when Brian's like, they stuck with me. They stuck with me. And I'm like, just like you. Yeah, they should. They should be there, and it should take as long as possible. That was a criticism when Schottenheimer got hired, that you don't do enough homework for the head coach. And Brian's like showing them, hey, let's exhaust, every option and turn over every stone.
It is a change, though, because it is one of those things where they are so frequently, I feel like, trying to convince everyone that they're keeping the coach involved. Like that the Joneses are keeping the coach involved, and that that's sort of the way we're trying to assure you that, the head coach is part of this, and they got this and that. This is the very first time it felt like a head coach was trying to go out of his way to assure you the Joneses were involved. Like, hey, they were part of this too. In fact, they were dragged kicking and screaming to sit in those meetings. But
he was asked about it nonstop.
No, I know, but he, even when he opened up about the process initially, he's like, I was so glad I got them to sit in there for the whole thing, and yada yada yada. It's not,
because only here is the storyline that the owner, GM, and the executive vice president are not. Only here is that a storyline,
right. Because they've put themselves in front of everything. They've been involved with everything.
I mean, GM would be a storyline some other places, but it's just obviously a unique setup here because the GM's the owner, and so that's why it's a little bit different. But I definitely feel coming away from this, there's no show here. Like, Brian Schottenheimer's in charge right now is definitely what it felt like when you came away from that yesterday. It's like they're letting Brian Schottenheimer build this the way he wants.
How and will that apply to free agency?
I believe it's going to apply to free agency more potentially to Christian Parker than Brian Schottenheimer.
In year one.
Yeah, in year one. In year one, I think they're going to say, hey, let him go get what he needs.
Parker would not label this as a quick rebuild. I thought it was a great question. Is this a quick turnaround with what you have? Not taking the bait? Said it's day to day, and he also would not commit. I'm like, man, this guy, he's CIA over here. He wouldn't even commit to calling the plays from the sideline or the booth.
Well, is that in deference to Schotty and what he wants? Or maybe he just hasn't figured out the best plan of attack yet. And I often wonder how coaches come up with this idea. Do they say they're going to do it one way and then they get into the game in the preseason? Like let's say we get to the preseason and he says, I want to do it from the sideline, and he doesn't like it. So the next game I'll try for the booth. You know, like which way are you going to do? And does the head? You know what I mean? Like
he knows.
Yeah,
you think he does know?
That's
knows.
Poker player. That's.
But what is announcing that going to give away to anybody?
What is it's the same as like the blue-white scrimmage. Like what's taking the numbers off gonna do, Mike? Like it's one of those things.
Yeah,
it's just
silly.
It's just coach thinking.
Yeah, it's silly.
It's
coach
treating
thinking.
it's treating everything like it's a state secret. Like
Right.
I can't possibly let you know if I'll be in the booth or the sideline. That's
Which
giving
is
them
silly.
the nuclear codes.
Which is silly.
It's silly, but it's the way they all are conditioned to think about things.
Yeah. Like, what am I going to get out of knowing if you're upstairs or on the sideline?
You as an opponent?
Yeah.
Oh, I would think nothing, unless they want to be able to tap into your communications.
Yeah, it matters to me if
You can
Belichick
be kept out of the Hall of Fame for a year.
I was going to say, it matters to me if Belichick's on the sideline or up top and how he's got a view of things.
All right, Christian Parker, why are you ultimately ready for this spot and the spotlight?
Christian, Todd Archer with ESPN. How ready are you for this?
I'm ready.
Where does the confidence come from that you know you're ready to handle it?
I think confidence comes from preparation, and I think that I've been able to learn from the right people. So I think that when you've been involved with, different people along my journey that I've learned under as head coaches and defensive coordinators, number one, and then the diversity of scheme that I've been involved with, and then you kind of become accustomed to what you're comfortable with in your own ideas. You like certain things, you don't like certain things, what will work, what won't work. I think as you kind of get involved with different people, you kind of form your own identity. So when you have that opportunity, you know what you want to do. And I've kind of gone through that process internally for a great deal of my career. So I've prepared as much as I possibly can at this moment.
All right, so there it is. Christian Parker saying the game is won and lost up front. He sounded like he wanted to focus on 3-4 as the scheme, but also be multiple. And we will go from here now, and let's see who is affected on the current roster with any type of scheme shift and what draft picks move up and down the board.
It's really fascinating to hear him, though, focus so much on the front seven as a guy whose job has been the secondary.
Yeah, and he said it's going to be, I'm going to have to try to break habit of not looking at the film and starting on the back end.
Yeah, and
that's where I'm going to magnetically be drawn to.
But that's also sort of what you heard from Pettin and Fangio, or some of the things that it had been discussed, they had told other people, was that even though Christian's a secondary coach, he sees how everything comes together and understands the importance of everything else on the field. And it's like Zach Bond told Joe Hoyt when he was out at Pro Bowl, where he was like, hey, Christian was the guy. If you were a defensive tackle, a linebacker, whatever position you were on the field, if you had a question and your position coach wasn't there, you go find Christian, because Christian knows the answer because he knows how everything works together.